Hello, welcome back to the nightlife. Boy, am I excited to be here today. It is the end of season 1 for Night Fight. Hell of a fucking season. First season out of the way. We got our first newly crowned tournament champion. Spoiler alert, Bam Bam Woodbury. And holy fuck, did he earn that helm. We're going to be breaking down that championship fight. But to help break it down with me, two of the fighters on that championship episode. We got Paul Friedel. Good to see you again, buddy. Okay, I guess he's not going to talk. But Ringo, it's good to see you too.
I didn't hear a bit of that, Ben.
All right, well, Paul's here. He's still working through it a little. But Ringo, good to see you as well.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Ready to talk about this shit. And
yeah. So first in, let's jump straight into it. Round one, kind of the beginning of it. We have the 7-man free-for-all, and just looking at this 7-man list, let me read it out for you, because like if you had to say like a who's who of Armored Combat, it might be it. This might be it. You got Bam Bam, Simon, Ringo, Paul, Cumby, Durante, and Carl. And, you know, we started out with a 7-man free-for-all, and, I mean, holy fuck, is this, like, I had this as just a genuine showcase of the talents individually that each fighter had, and it was the perfect way to kind of see what each fighter brings to the table. So what were some of your guys' thoughts on it, especially fighting in that melee?
the game of that melee was past the Carl. I kind of gotta apologize too, because we before the fight we were just sitting around chatting like you fucking do, and we're talking about fighting stuff, and Carl started asking questions about like people getting hurt and shit, and like I don't think we meant to fucking spook him, but we did. We started talking about Simon's injuries, about like shit that we'd gone through, armor failures, and like you could see him start to like, oh word, and then like after that we got into the fight, and all of us, we didn't avoid each other, but we were all looking for that easy takedown, and Carl just was. I mean, it was a second time in armor, so he just was that easy takedown, and everybody got a little fun time with Carl. So that's my take on.
I knew that my first reaction being in that 7-man melee, I'm like, I'm gonna go get Carl. I'm gonna put him into this rail. He's gonna know what it is to deal with us. And then as soon as I hit him, I punch him once, and I turn around. I'm like, there's Simon. Here's a good moment. I put my back to the rail so Simon wouldn't hit me, and I held on to Carl. I'm like, Carl, welcome to the league. And Simon just starts battering him in the back with this axe. I'm like, oh, buddy.
and you can see him fucking thrash around. That was probably the first time he got beat like that. But then right afterwards, he did manage to get out, and then Simon, went, oh, cool. Paul's here, and he took a swing at you. So we were not like hyper focused on Carl. We were still gonna fight each other.
We all knew that we needed at least 10 seconds with the guy.
Yeah, basically, we all wanted to get a little bit of time with Carl to get to know him better and show our love.
Yeah.
And as crazy as it sounds, that is how we show our love in this sport.
Yeah. Oh, it really is though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
looking at this fight, it's so cut together with all of these moments, because I'm guessing there's so much going on across this ring. Bam was staying out. He was trying not to get a hold of people, trying not to get riled up with people and get stuck in a jam. Simon was doing the same, but he usually had two people looking at him trying to hit him. Durante kept himself free and swinging and stuff like that. He kept himself out there. He was doing a lot of movement. I enjoy seeing that. I grabbed a hold of some people. I hit some people. It doesn't even show when I drop Simon after he drops me with axe blows.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's a crazy melee that everybody's willing to hit everybody is kind of the craziest place that you could possibly be. And when I say welcome to the blender, it means welcome to the blender.
And
For some fella,
and for anyone watching that thinks that, Carl just got punked, I challenge almost anyone, like this includes a lot of the veterans in the league as well. You try going into that 7-man team and come out looking like a stud. Like, no shame to Carl at all. Like,
honestly,
he got thrown to the fucking wolves.
Yeah, and like, let's look at it too. Like, Bam had one real highlight. I had one real highlight. Brian had one real highlight. I think Simon might have had two, and I think Paul had like one real highlight. And that's the level of like so much shit going on, and we're pretty good that we got on the show. And in that competition, we weren't able to. None of us really got to work because everyone else was like, like too fucking dangerous. So like, So, and like Carl, like he took that beating from Simon and then managed to get out of Paul's fucking grasps, and that's not easy. So like, dude did well. It's just,
oh yeah, no joke.
It's just
he kept his feet pretty well in a ring full of murderers. There's no joke.
He didn't go down until like halfway through, if I remember. And like,
Simon. It took Simon getting a hold of him and literally throwing him over his own ass to do it.
Yeah, and then and from there he was a little rattled, and that's fine. Like it was his. So and he's definitely picked up from then. So,
definitely.
So, but yeah, so he definitely he didn't get punked out, but it was if we didn't know who Carl was, like if we didn't know who each other was, it would have been a different fight, I think, because we all knew that if we could get our time with Carl, we could at least have one highlight.
Yeah.
And so we all wanted that chance. And so he did get put on a little bit of the short end of the stick there, in that we were all like, okay, at some point I need to circle back to him.
Right.
And like I think I got there at the very end, and like I was just trying to stay out wide. I don't even really remember what happened in that fight, but like
I don't remember it either.
Right.
I don't remember any of this fight.
Yeah, watching it, I was like, oh, that happened? Weird.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, I think we kind of covered this. Everyone got their showcase in. It's pretty much what you expect out of every fighter. And unfortunately, as good of a fighter Carl is, the level there was just way too fucking high. So Carl ended up going home. So that brought us into the next round of fights, which I was very excited for because there was no swap in weapons, there was no swap in armor. It was pretty much just divvy up the teams and just keep fighting, and which I thoroughly loved. So the teams would end up being Ringo and Simon, Durante and Bam, and then Paul and Cumby, which I did appreciate them keeping a little first sword integrity there. That was good. Which I guess technically he's not one anymore, but fuck it. He'll always be my first sword.
One of the things that I liked. My first sword, Jesus. One of the things I liked about that the breakup there is that there was a lot of parity between the teams, right? Like every team had their big, strong, ferocious motherfucker, and every team had their little bit fast, little bit squirrely motherfucker. And like it's not exactly breaking down like that, because like Cumby he's a little bit more of a fucking beast and putting power out than I am, and I think he even hits a little harder than Brian. And then Paul's a little bit faster and a little bit more dynamic than definitely than Simon. And I think that Bam too. Bam's very linear. So, but the point is there is that parity there. And like, I mean, I wanted to be with Brian because obviously I want to fight with the dude I fight with.
Oh yeah.
But that was neat. It was a thing when it happened. I was like, okay, I kind of like this. I kind of like how this broke out.
If you and Brian had been together, just think about what the other two teams would have been. It would have been Cumby and somebody. It would have been Cumby and then one of the three of me, Simon, or Bam Bam, and then it would have been me. The other two left. Me, Simon, or Bam Bam on a team.
Oh yeah, it would have. It would have very much changed how we played, and that we would have had to have been super mobile, can't get too tied up. But because it's a 3-man melee, no one could just focus on us. So I think it could have worked. Also, we have a lot of natural teamwork because we fucking fight together all the time. So that's why I wanted it. But it is what it is. You don't get to pick your team.
And that would have been cool just to see, because I consider like Bam and Simon are one of the original two almost like married couples. But then you and Brian are almost like the married couple of the Northeast. So to see the two teams go at it, that would have been something I really would have been excited to see. But we didn't get to see that.
No.
But moving forward, we see a lot of good stuff out of this round. It's so Ringo, when you made that kick, so when looking at it, I'm gonna stick up for you and say it looked like you hit his hip, because I hear a lot of people trying to say that you hit the back of his knee. I don't think you did.
That wasn't it. That wasn't his knee. In fact, he told me afterwards the thing that wrenched it is when Simon falls afterwards. It's not even the kick, which makes sense because in my memory, what happened is I kicked him and then I didn't realize he was down. So you see me throw that strike. He's down when I'm throwing that falchion strike. And I'm realizing as I throw it, I'm like, shit, he's down. And I'm throwing this vertical to the spine and I'm trying to pull up on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear him yell. And even though I know a falchion is probably not the thing that caused it, I'm freaking out because I just heard him yell. And I'm like, fuck, Cumby, are you okay? And then I look up and Bam punches me in the face. And I turn and I yell at Cumby, Cumby, are you okay? And then I look up and Bam punches me in the face again. And I think we did that at least one more time before I was like, Cumby's not answering. And in my fucking Bam punched head, that meant Cumby must be okay.
Right.
This is not good logic. But
no.
Well, and it's
So-
like anyone that has, for everyone that actually watches football, which I know for our crowd it's probably in the minority, but anytime you see a gruesome injury, a lot of the times it's when a lot of linemen, when they get leg injuries, the tackle develops, someone gets crushed under it, the leg gets trapped. So when I first saw it, I did think, okay, he got trapped under there. But so just put that to rest. Anyone who think that Ringo's out there fucking capping the backs and knees, that's not what happened. But otherwise,
we'll see what happens when we find other footage.
I would love to see some more footage on that though.
Believe me.
Cause I like that angle that they gave it. It is kind of hard to see when he landed, and like it looked like Simon fell off to the side. So I was a little like, is that what happened? But I don't know. The story tracks with my memory of it, and it kind of looks right.
It tracks with what he told you after the fight and everything else like that, because I remember that discussion.
Yeah.
Now looking at the beginning of the fight, I'm just watching, I'm sitting here watching the replay because it's fun. The angle that they're giving us, all the three teams split up and we're split up around the ring. And me and Cumby were like, we cannot get stuck in this pocket. We cannot get stuck in this pocket. As soon as Ringo and Simon start to circle towards us, and then Bam and Durante look at us, I'm like, this is no good, fellas. I yell at the Cumby, cut across, and we run across the middle of the field. And as soon as I turned and watched, both teams turned and matched us. And I was like, well, shit. 4-on-2 sounds like great odds, right, Cumby?
It's kind of weird in the way they placed us too. It didn't feel like we were equidistant. It felt like you were placed between Simon and I and Bam and Brian. Like I remember thinking like we have to go towards you guys because if we go the other way, we're gonna get pinned in. I think actually Simon and I might have had that conversation. I know we definitely went that way for a reason. And then it's too, and then you ran through the middle, and if Bam had kept coming towards us, we'd have been in that trapped position. But like they fucking they T-Rexed on you. They saw the movement and they were like,
Yeah, I understand that, but I just wasn't gonna sit there in the pocket, let you all hammer on us while we were stuck on a rail.
No, that's definitely the wrong move. That move I think actually worked out better too, because then you got to engage us before Bam and Brian got there. From what it looked like to me, and because of that, it was a little bit more even. And like I think I got one strike off before it really turned into like just a normal scrummy scrum. And then
So we go through that little ring around to the rosy of the ring there, and then we all get bound up, and then you come across, you kick Cumby, Simon or Bam Bam comes across, and as I get free from Brian, Bam Bam punches me in the head against the rail, and I hit the ground. That's when Cumby hits the ground, and I hear him scream, and I'm like, well, shit. Cumby's out. I got to go do something. So I get up immediately, run at Bam Bam, put him against the rail. And as I get put down to the ground, I watch Cumby limp across the arena and tackle Simon. And I'm like, okay, if he's up and moving, I got to get up and move too. But now I'm watching it, and I'm like, I did not realize how many axe blows I actually got hit with by Simon.
Simon went to town on your back in that exchange. And those plates, those mini plates, they do not look very protective. So I gotta say.
Anybody wanting to start out in the ACL, don't go for like Russian Eastern European armor. Those small plates suck. It's or plan to never get hit. That's not going to happen. So don't wear Russian small plate. Doesn't do well against big axe blows.
Especially repeated.
Yeah. And me and Simon were talking after while we were all filming in the next round of eliminations that happened, and me and Simon are talking, and I'm looking at my armor, and I'm like, hey, Simon, there's the back plate, and you literally could see the crisscross of creases in those plates. I'm like, it doesn't matter if they were 4130 or not, dude. Like, that's some serious damage. They're talking about the beginning of the 7-man melee. Who's the most dangerous person in the ring? Simon.
Yeah. I'm so pissed. We both Bam and I had a fucking line, and I was hoping they'd get it from one of us. That Simon's supreme ability is that he cares not one whit for anyone's safety, including his own.
Yeah.
He's just the meanest, dangerous motherfucker.
Yeah, definitely. It's that apathetic sociopath murderer that happens. It's just kind of constant. But I gotta say, he's just a pillbox of death, man. Like he's not the most fast thing in the world, but if he reaches out and touches you, you're gonna know it.
Yeah.
He's also really hard to just supplant or put anywhere else. He's just really damn difficult to mess with.
Right. Yeah. So going on from that round, we see a lot of great fighting. I thought there wasn't a team specifically that did a great job of. There was a few good moments. I saw Ringo, you doubling back to try and peel someone off of Simon. I think Cumby was really the one that you did a good job peeling off of. There was a few other notable ones in there as well, but kind of the teamwork, died down a little. But in the end, we saw Cumby, and you heard it here that like two people could audibly hear him scream when he went down. And if you think that it's just if that Cumby was kind of just wimped out and was like, oh, I'm done, I'm not going out. I guarantee you it took Paul, it took the medics, it took the producers, it took everyone in that stadium to say, don't fucking go out there again.
Yeah, none of us wanted him to fucking fight. Not on the I want to win because, but I'm sitting there thinking if they stand up and fight, what are we supposed to do? Not go after them? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, Humby, you're gonna get fucking hurt if you go back in there, and we were just please don't do this, please just don't fucking do this.
Right. My thought process was, I went over to Cumby, and as soon as I got up to Cumby and he's sitting in the chair, I yell in his ear, I'm like, it's not fucking worth it, dude. 10 grand is not worth a couple $100,000 career in the military that you have right now, and you can't go take command with a broken leg, dude. Yeah. And he listened to me for a hot minute. He's like, I can do another 90 seconds. I'm like, I can do another 90 seconds. I got a stinger and I can't use my left arm right now, but I'm still willing to step out here and punch some people in the mouth. But at the same time, is 10 grand worth it? Yeah. I know that we're on national television, whatever you want to call it, but that's where it has to be. And he's like, but we're going to fight it. I'm like, yeah, we can fight it. Medics come over. They're yelling at both of us. They're telling both of us, no, you shouldn't do this. We kind of lament and go, well, maybe you're right. No, we're going to do this. The producers come over with a lawyer and say, hey, the medic says you can't do it. You're not going to do it. I'm like, okay. The medics got the lawyers involved. We'll say, okay, God. Yes.
Another reason why lawyers are good for nothing.
I disagree. They're good for saving Cumby. And like, let's be honest, had Cumby dropped in that fucking fight, I don't think I know how Brian thinks because I know how we trained him. I know how I think.
Definitely come and murdered.
Yeah, we Bam and Simon love to beat up on the weak thing. So if Paul's the one, if he has no teammate, he's immediately he becomes the last round's Carl. And now maybe Paul gets fucked up too. So
yeah.
So realistically, I think that was I agree with the producer's decision. I think it was dangerous for either of them to fight. And I'm very glad they made that call. And I definitely understand wanting to fight and saying I could do it, but I can't sit here and say that I might not do the same fucking thing. I don't know. I haven't been in that goddamn position. But we've all fucking gone in injured.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We've all thrown caution to the wind, but at the same time, we're adding money to it, which makes something different happen in somebody's head. And I didn't feel like seeing that other side of Simon. Still, I don't want him to go to we actually have to kill Paul now.
Yeah. So even if they kept him in there, it sounds like it's the decision was going to be the way it was, either by them removing him or him staying in. You guys fought a damn good fight, but two teams move on, and we start going into the next round.
In that round was that point where Cumby's down, and so Paul's on his own, and you're driving Bill into the fucking rail, and Simon's hitting you. Other than that, that fight looked fucking even for three teams to my eyes. So I'm sitting there going, had fucking Cumby not gotten injured, we'd have gone to a fucking second round, and who fucking knows what happened. And it's the same thing that happened when I rolled Sean's ankle. Apparently I'm just the asshole. I fucking hurt everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that kind of ended up being the theme for these fights. It was just a war of attrition. Who's going to be the first one to get injured? Because at this level, everyone is so goddamn good that you wait for someone to make that mistake. And we saw it later in your rounds as well. That when Simon ended up really kind of getting hurt, which we'll dive into now that we head into the next round. But it was anyone's game is who can stay healthy and who can actually stay on the field. But
we were all within a hair's breadth. Who managed to get their plan off? Who managed to not catch that one bad break? And unfortunately for you, Paul, and for Cumby, he caught that bad break.
Yeah,
no pun
intended. That shit happens, man.
Yeah.
So so we move into the next round of fighting, which they ended up bringing the historical aspects back into it. I kind of groaned a little. I was hoping we'd get away from it in the final round, but this one wasn't terrible, so I kind of let it, go. We got each team has one falchion and buckler and one longsword, which, as far as the weapon choices for how these historical rounds have gone, I thought it was on the better side. It's still, the longsword is not something you'd bring into a melee, so having that in a melee kind of got me a little annoyed. But what were you guys' thoughts on the weapon choices, at least for this round?
I mean, it's pretty evenly set up. It's going to require more energy because you're going to be able to swing the weapons longer. They're not big, long axes. You're not going to be knocking anybody down with a long sword or anything else like that. It's really to show you some flash and give you a little bit of flair, and going into this next round. And it'll also make you run your gas tank out. It's definitely a big thing about it. Swinging a falchion for 3 minutes is a long damn time to swing a falchion. Ringa knows that. Long sword's the same way. You trying to run around and swing a long sword for 3 minutes? That's a long 3 goddamn minutes.
Yeah.
And
so,
and I'm kind of excited. Well, not really excited, but as we get into the round, it was one of the only times we've really seen them kind of slow down and highlight some weapon skills when it comes to Ringo warding off some of the strikes that Brian was putting in, and really able to do some good counter striking before Simon just decided, fuck you, I'm going to drop you.
Holy fuck. That fucking check, dude.
Yeah. And, I think these 2 rounds were probably some of the best fighting I've seen, definitely in the show's history, but even just like with these small teams, and I'm including the 3-on-3s as well for like chapter matches. This is probably the best group fight, like small group fighting I've seen, like period.
Who'd have
I,
thunk? Top 10%. You got the top 10 percentile fighters in the country in the ring, man. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. So going in,
I mean,
what was your kind of strategy, Ringo, going into this round?
During the first, I mean, we had the same strategy both rounds, but during the first round, we sat down and we were like, it was kind of the same strategy. Oh no, their strategy was the reverse. But like ours was, Simon, I want you to go toe to toe with Bill, and then I'm gonna keep Brian off you. And then the thing that I was supposed to be doing, and I didn't do enough of it, is I need to go and hit Bill and make Bill reacquire me as the target so that he loses track of Simon. And the opposite happened. Admittedly, Simon was able to do a lot of good work against Durante, but Bill stayed focused. He stayed focused on Simon, made sure to put Simon down. And if I remember correctly, their plan was actually Bill was supposed to take on me. Maybe not. Maybe I'm mixing it up in my head. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so round one, and you can see that adjustment happens in round two. I do engage Bill more, but it was too late. Simon was already tired. He just fought the fucking fight before. So Simon, he has the least rest of any of the fighters. He has a cut in his wrist that they don't really show. And basically he's just worn out. I mean, and he's the oldest dude out there, probably of the four of us, also in the worst shape. You know, I love Simon, but like dude does not do cardio. And so what the problem that we had was in the first round, I let him put too much out there and I didn't do my job to get him so that he could, so that he could stay away from Bill and put Bill down. And so he got taken down. He had to get back up. Bill only fell once. So their big stud is sitting there pretty fresh and ours wasn't. And so that's, even though in the second round I did my job better, we'd already paid the price. And I think that's why when fucking Bam comes out and fucking rocks him with that big punch, he'd already taken so much damage that he just couldn't keep taking it. And so he had to take that knee and then, like I tried to survive and like I did survive, but that's it. I survived.
You did very well squaring off of both of those individuals. Like you did not let them get a hold of you. You tried to stay out, get away from them. You were still throwing blows, blocking. I can't deny you at all on that, dude. It was very impressive to watch.
Well, and I was kind of curious how you how Bam was gonna handle you, because you are the anti-Bam. Like his tactic, like from the video that we've seen and broke down, is that he has that overhead grapple, and then he will just try and overpower you. But you are the slipperiest motherfucker when it comes to like an overhead like grapple. So I was gonna be curious to see how he like kind of adjusts to you. But then you had to fuck it up and like dance with your little, executioner buddy the whole fucking time.
Sorry, man. Well, also if you noticed, right, like this might have just been my interpretation, but what I got out of it is Bam comes in and he tries to throw that punch. I duck out of the way, and Bam, as Bam does, is throwing his whole fucking body into it. So he catches nothing, eats dirt. Mm-hmm. After that, he's way more slow on that approach on me. He's deliberate. And that's, if you remember, that's what he says he wants to do at the beginning of the round. We need to be technical. We need to be deliberate. I think when he got that face full of dirt, he woke himself back up, readjusted, went back to his strategy. And that's part of, I do feel like I was pretty good on the defense against him and Brian, but it's two of them walking me down. They didn't quite keep their 45s, but there wasn't really anywhere for me to escape. Right. It was pretty close to like perfect 2-on-1 tactics, and they're just slowly walking me in. And I ate a couple punches from Bam, I ate a shot from Brian, and I didn't get to return fire. So in the end, like I did have that defense, but I don't think that's enough to make up for the fact that I was clearly on the defensive.
Right.
And and so that's really just what it comes down to, is that once Bam made that adjustment, they they just, they started to stomp us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at Simon's face and it looks like hamburger, man.
Yeah.
he looks so beat up, and I'm like, no, my God, that punch must have really done some work. And we saw his teeth were chipped afterwards. I was like, woof. Oh.
Yeah, so
and
he had
when you talk about like fighting someone like Bam, I think the best analogy that I've heard from someone, it's very much like talking about the Mountain in Game of Thrones, where it's like he's freakish strong, he's freakishly tall, and he's freakishly fast for like someone his size. He's got some fucking speed on him. So like, trying to get around him is easier fucking said than done.
So, and so first off, his hand speed is, and we see it later when he's in that, because spoiler alert, Bam and Brian win. When he's fighting Brian, his hand speed is much faster than Brian's, despite being, this big lumbering guy, because he is an athlete, dude. And linearly,
he has lean strength, so he's not like this guy he's not like the fucking powerlifters of the world where like they got some power but they're slow moving. Like, no, he fucking moves his whole body.
Yeah. Unlike Simon will put all the power into it, and for that one swing, he's fast as fuck, but he's not quick, right? Bam can be quick. And linearly, he's probably, he's in that conversation with me, with Brian, with Paul, with these fast dudes. But the question is, he fell throwing a punch. It's that side to side he doesn't have as well. But that was the other thing. He played his game and he didn't have to have that side to side. I mean, actually, if you saw in the second round, when he and I go off to the side and play together, he's the one who breaks away and he beats me back into the fucking scrum. And, part of that is whoever makes the first step wins, but like, I'm not even on his ass by then.
Yeah.
He's not a slow dude.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, because I had you and Simon winning that first round. The second round, and like not by much, but like it's slim, but you guys definitely took that first round. Second round with him going down, I think we can all agree that, Bam and Durante ended up winning that, and it's rough.
Having rewatched it, no complaints. 100% agree with the judge's decision there. And again, just like in the last one, it just came down to one little thing. And we just, we were a little bit more beat, and they beat us on that.
Yeah.
Happens.
Yeah. It happens.
It happens. Like,
that happens.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. So moving on, we go into the final duels round, and it's just these dual weapons. It's just like so talking like so strictly coming from the ACL background that we have. When we think of like the duels weapon, we kind of think like the lighter, more technical weapons. They could really kind of get some skill into it and really kind of maneuver some shots in. These weapons that get into the duels, like what are you guys' thoughts on these? So the final three, for anyone that haven't seen, I guess, and I got to break it down, is the flamberge was the first one, the double-headed axe was the second weapon, and the war mace, the two-handed mace, was the third one. So what were you guys' thoughts on these weapon selections? So start with Ringo. What do you think about it? Yeah.
First off, I think two of those weapons are stupid weapons. That double-bladed axe is a stupid fucking axe. I've already got my piece on that, and I kind of feel the same thing on the flamberge. Part of the reason that I think that is like, and as I'm thinking over the pairings, had Simon and I gone through, Simon wins just on the fact he's going to be able to swing those things better than me. Had Paul and Cumby get through, Paul's going to fucking smoke Cumby, basically for the same reason, and then he's got fucking, monkey fucking gorilla reach. Like, so when you put those three out, you're saying we want the big guy to win. And like, I know we want cool weapons that like that are different than the other stuff, but like put something, if you're gonna have smaller dudes, and they did that. The episodes were mostly by weight, not exactly, but they tried to be kind of size related if you look at their lineups they're picking, and And so if you're gonna have a couple small guys in your final, like, come on, give something that doesn't just give a clear advantage to the bigger guy. So I really the mace I think is fine for that. I think the mace it gives a little advantage to the bigger guy, but it can still be wielded agilely, and so I just would have liked to see, I don't know.
Yeah, because I agree with that. It definitely favors the bigger builds. Like, if you got some strength, you can move. Like, there is a almost minimum strength requirement, and it's very high for all these weapons. So just like this is where you bring the longsword out. This is where you could have John really start to get into the weeds with some of the technique that he sees. Like this would be his bread and butter. But it ended up being a lot of strength weapons, and because even the two-handed mace, Durancy's not a big guy. Like, he is by no means a big guy, but he was able to really move that weapon.
He's not a big guy in this sport, right? He's still fucking
relatively. Yeah.
He's still 220, 6'3", or 6'2", or whatever. I don't know. Anyone gets over.
He's not a small human.
Yeah.
Well, let me in my 5'10" chair here say that he's small. All right, I feel good about myself.
But yeah, so I mean, and that's the other thing about him. If we're talking about what Clemens and the historical techniques and stuff like that, the flamberge, as he talked about, is a war fucking weapon. It's not a dueling weapon. Not that the two-handed axe is a dueling weapon either, but that's a little bit more of a dueling weapon. But the flamberge is you're in a fucking line, you're setting it to thrust through plate mail or through a horse or some shit. It's a fucking ridiculous weapon. It's just a ridiculous. And so my thoughts on those, seeing them happen, is basically just we brought out these fucking big honking things, thinking that we're going to get big, heavy shots and get a knockout. But then we only got a couple of big shots with it. Like, we don't get the excitement with them that you get in a heavyweight boxing match, I feel. So that's the other thing. I would have liked, in my perfect world, we have that mace, that axe, and then the flamberge is replaced with something, that actually is more likely to favor the agile guy. So you have a middle weapon, or you replace the double-headed axe with the flamberge. Actually, I'd be happier with that. Those axes are dangerous as hell. I don't like them.
And it kind of made me chuckle that, it's season 1. They're still getting the formula down, and I completely understand it. And, there's going to be some kinks to work out. But it almost seems like they got the weapon selection backwards, is that they need to bring out these heavy weapons for the historical part, where you have a team and have someone be that setup guy, and then keep the lighter longsword, the lighter weapons for these singles matches. So, maybe if we have a chance to sit down with all the hosts. Yeah.
It's just not big and flashy. I look at these 3 weapons and I'm like, this is looking for some big flashy swings, and they want to show off the big honking things, as Ringo puts it. That flamberge, even as big as it is, Brian should have taken the foregrip.
You're 100% right.
He could have hit him with that pommel, just clocked him across the head with that backwards oar swing. He could have just immediately cleaned Bam Bam's clock with that pommel, because that pommel is huge. Mm-hmm. And then you look at the two-handed axe. The two-handed axe, you can grip up on it and everything like that, but it's a shorter weapon. I think that gave a lot of ups to Bam with the two-handed axe. I mean, all of it kind of you all were saying it swings towards a bigger guy anyways. But that two-handed mace, I have a two-handed mace head, and I'm making a two-handed mace, and I'm going to challenge a bunch of longsword fighters. That two-handed, I'm going to fight you with this, and we'll see how it goes, fellas. Because that's what I rattan, and that's what I use. That's what I use to fight kings and shit. It's really fun to fight them with that, because they're like, "How the hell? What are you bringing?" I'm like, "I'm gonna hit you with this club. I'm gonna beat you."
Hit you with this club.
Get your weapons. I'm gonna get this club. So that mace can move very fast.
Yes,
those maces aren't really huge. They aren't really heavy. They can move really quick, and I really think that Brian could have thrown a lot of serious blows with that if he had really wanted to. The two-handed axe is just a mess everywhere. We watched the fight. It's just kind of like a clusterfuck all the way across.
Mhm.
The Flamberge round had a lot of good blows thrown into it. Um, they weren't like really flubbing around. I really don't think they flailed too much with it.
Nah.
Um, and they got some good blows. There was a couple of hits on the arms and such like that, a couple of hits to the head, and the rest they were kind of clinging against each other because they're big, unwieldy swords. I mean, those things are silly.
Yeah.
They're 6 foot long, and I think if Brian had taken that foregrip, he'd have been better off getting little arm chops and little head chops in there, and still being able to void and have a bigger block for
Right. Yeah.
big blow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 100% right on that, Paul. Like, I think the real thing that shows in this is that, Brian is a good fighter. He has a lot of experience in a lot of different fields, but his weapons experience is very limited in the types that he's done. He's done one type of longsword, and he doesn't really learned how to do half sorting. He hasn't really learned a lot about the different grips that you can employ on the axe or on the flamberge, and so you could see he was very out of place. Bam didn't look out of place. Bam did exactly what he said he was going to do. He came in, he played his game, he made Brian fight him at his speed, and that was the real difference. Brian needed to go, not how are these weapons supposed to be used necessarily, but how do I make these weapons do what I need them to do for me, which is be faster, keep the pace up, and basically just those two things. He doesn't need to hit hard. He needs to push Bam to the limit of Bam's exhaustion and just land more blows and hope that by landing those more blows, it'll make up for the heavy blows Bam's going to land.
I think that what I'm watching now is that Brian went and squared up with Bam a little too much. You have to keep working angles with Bam, and you have to keep moving on him, which he does at different parts, but sometimes he just stands there and they just trade blows. I'm like, Brian, no, you have to be in and out, moving left and right, because he can't change. He gets tired changing that position, making him move and everything else like that. And Brian doesn't have to worry about a gas tank running out with Bam Bam because he's going to outlast Bam.
Exactly. And like he almost, I feel like, if not every entering move at the beginning of the round, at least once a round, he simply just entered by basically going straight into Bam's guard, not even throwing a blow, just I'm going to get in close with this monster who loves people to get in close so he can throw him to the ground. That's why we see him get tossed in round 2. And a lot of that, Brian's my buddy. I've been fighting him for a while, and I've seen it on a number of occasions. When he gets to the highest level, he gets a little nervous and he psychs himself out. So a little bit of this might have been nerves, and he might have been a little bit of choking, but it also could have just been he's never been in these positions, and he hasn't had to work outside of this specific box yet. And so he just wasn't able to because he didn't have, the years of experience of how do I translate the stuff I know into this new thing.
Right.
And Bam does. Bam has that.
Yeah.
One thing that pisses me off about Brian, and I hope to hell that he hears it, and I'm going to yell at him about the next time. The next time he's holding a two-handed axe like he's going to cross-check somebody with a hockey stick, I'm going to hit him. Because I'm tired of seeing him just walk out with his hands like thumbs together running at somebody. I'm like, come on, you can cross-check somebody the other way too. I mean, the Nosh handbook that was put out, which is basically about two-handed maces, hammers, and axes, where it deals with hafted weapons instead of dealing with a longsword. It's a historical manual. It shows multiple different kinds of grips and how you can use them. And every time I see Brian go out in this sport, he's got his thumbs together to start. He's not ready to swing an axe. He's ready to cross-check somebody with an axe.
I mean, so here's the thing that is the Knights Hall way, and that is also out of a historical book. Paulus Hector Mayer. We had a guy come for a while, Tom Courtney. He's Duke Visivald in the SEA, and he came and he was teaching us. He was teaching Jay a bunch of the stuff out of this manual, and we found that cross-check grip is stronger in the bind and in the grapple. And so while you're correct, you aren't as prepared to swing. Getting from that position to being ready to swing is a little bit easier if you have free space than when you're grappled, getting back into the strong, sturdy position. So you lose a half second.
What I watched is that he had his hands over, thumb is together, and he didn't do anything to Bam. Bam threw him down. Brian, he goes to the other grip, and then he starts actually doing something.
You are correct. In this fight, he basically a lot of times it looked like he reverted to early fighter instincts of I'm just going to cross check. I'm just going to drive into this person. And he sort of abandoned, and he has that knowledge, and we've seen him swing, right? Yes. We know he can put damage. So you're 100% correct on that. I think the problem was, that he just wasn't making that transition. He wasn't thinking of that two-handed axe like his axe. He wasn't thinking of that mace like his axe. He wasn't able to think of how he uses the axe in melees the same way he fights longsword. He wasn't able to put those things together. He had all the tools. He just didn't put them together. And versus Bam did the exact opposite. Bam had all the tools and went, okay, I know how to use this flamberge like a very heavy longsword. I'm going to throw a bunch of blows, but I'm going to kind of stay at distance. I'm not going to overswing, but I am going to use it like a weapon. And then when we're getting in close, back to my melee stuff, I'm punching you right in the face. Mm-hmm. And the same with that axe. He went, oh, you want to get in close on me? Cool. This isn't a duel. I'm going to go back to my grappling. Plants it in the dirt. The one where Brian started to look a little bit better was the mace. And just like you said, when he was swinging, he looked good and it looked pretty even. I might have even edged the mace round to Brian. But it might.
Yeah. He missed too many lines. He missed too many blows. He was just that half step out where he should have been hitting Bam Bam. And it's like he has such perfect blows that were no blocks to it. I'm like, man, Brian, if you were just 6 inches closer, or if he had put his hands together at the bottom of the mace and extended a little bit,
right,
he would have gotten those blows. And I think that, that round goes really fast. I barely saw most of it, but what I was seeing is that Brian wasn't extending all the way to the bottom of the mace, and he was just missing a little bit. I'm like, man, you got to use every inch of that when you're dealing with a guy that's got a longer reach than you.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
Finish your okay. He wasn't able to catch his measure on Bam, and I think part of that is you're switching from this super long weapon to a super short weapon to a medium length weapon against a guy who at least in that fight demonstrated better range control and definitely has a greater reach than you. And so I kind of feel like the targeting algorithm in his fucking head just couldn't keep up with that context switching. And we see him whiff. And also he definitely knew he was under the gun in that third round, and he went to a little desperation. But regardless, that's still the round he did best in, right?
Yeah.
Whether he wins that round, whether he loses that round, whether it's edgeable. The point is that's the round. If you look at the other three, that's the round where he performs the best. And to your point, that's the round he's swinging, and that's the problem. It's obviously we can sit here and critique the guy. And so first of all, I'm sure you agree. We both think they're great fighters. So when we're shitting on you, Brian, we might do some stupid shit in that same position, but
we can go back to his episode of this round where we can go back and see your hard take of him being the best pound for pound fighter, like period.
Right. And actually, you know what? Let's go back to that episode. That first the same thing happens, right? That first round against Josh, he barely swings his goddamn weapon, and he might, if I remember correctly, I said he lost that round. In round 2, he fucking swings, annihilates Josh.
Yeah.
Brian, whenever I've been in Brian's corner and he comes up against a fighter who I think has more technique than him, my default is fucking spam.
Yep.
No one can keep up with your speed and your stamina. Maybe people can keep up with one of the two. No one can keep up with both. So just throw more fucking blows and odds are you're going to walk away. If you don't walk away victor, you'll at least make it way closer.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things it's kind of, when Bam wins, he says, I've been doing armored combat for 24 years, and it's good to finally get to this point. Brian's only been doing this 3-4 years, somewhere in that range.
Four, I think, is...
Yeah. And you can tell he comes from a melee background. Singles are not his forte. And, it's like we've said 1,000 times on the show. the one thing that this show does a really good job of is you need to be a really well-rounded fighter, because you need to do melee, you need to do singles, and that singles proved that it's like you, no matter what weapon, you gotta at least have a knowledge base of the techniques. And unfortunately, Brian just couldn't hack it when it came to fighting Bam, which is nothing to fucking shy from, because we're critiquing Brian, but I have to get my hat off to Bam, because just for the fact that he is one of the OGs of the sport, and both of you are very OG sport people as well. The amount of growth that's been in this sport from the past 5 years is fucking, it blows my mind how much the sport has grown, and he has consistently stayed at the top of that sport. So to say that Brian is like kind of slumming it when it comes to Bam, it's no fault of his own, and like it's a tough order right there.
I mean, and also, you go, Paul.
No, like Bam Bam's been around for the entirety of our sports time in the actual like going and doing stuff. He's been around since the start of it. There's no question about it. Plus, he's got 20 years worth of SCA knowledge behind him. Like, it's no joke. He is a serious warrior. He's a serious fighter, and he's a serious athlete. There's nothing against Brian losing to Bam Bam in this at all, because Brian made him work for every damn inch of it. Mm-hmm. Bam Bam's on his back foot for some of the parts of these fights, and he's really like questioning if he's going to get out of the situation. I'm watching the fight right now, and I'm watching him get pushed back and pushed around and everything else like that. Bam wasn't comfortable all the way throughout all the rounds. He got in a couple points where he was like, well, shit, what do I do now? And he just has the knowledge to be able to pull through that kind of situation. And hey, how do you get better at fighting? By fighting more. And that's the biggest thing about singles. You have to fight with all these weapons constantly and try different things and fight different things and do more pel work and practice and fight more to get better at fighting. Mm-hmm. That's what we've all been saying. Helm time's the best practice.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. One of the other things that we're talking about here, right, is that like, we pointed out all of Brian's flaws. We didn't really talk about what Bam did right in this, because a lot of it is Bam was just very good at the basics, and that's a little hard to talk about. But he had a plan, came in, and just fucking executed his goddamn plan, and at that point, and Brian didn't execute his, right? And had Brian executed his, maybe we could have more to talk about who did. But like, really comes down to Bam had a very simple plan, went in, methodical, and just did what Bam does. And so yeah, so a lot of the reason we put that on is it's kind of hard to talk about, those specific, very basic things like, hey, when we get in close, know to let go of your weapon and punch the other guy in the face. Just it's little things like that he just did. I don't know if I can say perfectly. I don't know if we're far enough in the sport that we can say that, but for where we are in the sport now, he did it perfectly.
And the one thing that I will say he does perfectly, like if you watch Bam, his I want to say counter punching, but like his counter blows, like some of them, like. So the main thing that Durante is kind of, I want to say like it's like his signature move is that, when he pins you against that cross check, he switches it up and he switches up his hands and gets that like, breakaway shot in. To your point again for Bam's hand speed, it's not a lot of time between the, him changing his hand and throwing the shot. Bam is able to land a shot to the face on Brian in that split second when he lets off the pressure, which I thought it was phenomenal. That the counterpunch was phenomenal.
Yeah. Watching this fight makes me feel a lot better about the times I've lost to Bam.
There's a reason we all have his poster in our bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, really. So we want to talk about Bam for a minute, and what I'm seeing out of his fighting is that Bam controlled the pace. He kept himself at range. He counterpunched when he needed to. He took advantage of strikes when he needed to as well. Anybody can spam somebody to death, but if the opposition has a good defense and they know when to slip the blow in, they will land blows consistently and block out 45% of your blows, but all of their blows will hit. And that's kind of what I was seeing. Brian had some really good wards in there, but Bam Bam was able to land consistently because of his range control and his pace control.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be able to break up Brian's onslaught and then blow him out with a couple of blows, and then Brian would come back at him again and he'd be like, okay, defend, hit him again, defend, hit him again. And that was kind of that methodical chop down,
Mm-hmm.
step, keep him at range, back out a little bit, back in, hit him, and then back out. He had that control there. He knows how to run a singles fight. He knows how to make it his fight, and he made it his fight. There's no joke about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not really. There's a couple of moments where Brian gets all up in Bam Bam shit, and then Bam Bam just goes, "Okay, I'm gonna grapple you because people grapple me all the time," and he punches him. Like he responded to Brian's attacks and onslaught and Brian's defense as well in the correct ways. Not saying that he did everything perfectly. Nobody does everything perfectly. That just doesn't happen. But he did everything well enough that he was able to edge himself out as a more competent fighter in this format.
Right. Yeah. And so I think we're all in agreement with it. Bam definitely deserved the win on that. And, it's really been one hell of a season. And, we'll go ahead and take it home here before we, so we can dust off our knees and, stop our gushing a little. But it really was one hell of a championship episode. I want to thank all the fighters, and
man,
excluding you two. Fuck you two. But for everyone to put on a great episode, everyone has been enjoying it this whole season. We want to thank everyone we especially want to thank the History Channel for rolling the dice on the sport that we can gush for days, but they came in blind.
Matador Entertainment too, the production company. Shout outs to them.
Yeah, Matador. They did some real work and they took care of us. They showed us proper in this. There's two other people that I want to talk about right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know them, they're in charge of the league. Andre Sanu and Jay Brooks. These two men have done so much work for us, getting this situated, getting us on the television, and doing so much work otherwise for the Armored Combat League, the ACL. They've been doing this out of their pockets. They've been breaking their own backs for us for 7 years now. And it's not always been kittens and giggles. They've dealt with some serious issues, and they've done some serious work for us. And I want to put out a very heartfelt thank you to those guys, even though I don't agree with them and I try to call them on their shit sometimes. I still love both of them, my brothers. But they have done some real work, and this show is because of them. They were able to put it together and bring it forward to somebody so they would actually buy into it and go, look, these guys aren't just crazy idiots running around with steel. They're really actually doing something. This is crazy. This looks fun. They bought in. And when they got to my episode, I looked at those guys and I told the whole staff shooting. I'm like, look, California's not too far and I will come and find you. You make us look dumb. You take what I've been trying to do for the last 6 years and make it look stupid. I'm going to have an issue. And they're like, no worries, Paul. We have drank the Kool-Aid. I'm like, I hope to fuck you're right. And holy crap, this looks great.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, buts about it. This looks amazing. I'm really glad that the effort was put forward for it. I'm really glad that we were able to have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, talk about two guys that never really get sleep and really don't kind of get a pat on the back and a thank you when it's deserved. It's Jay and Andre. So, thank you to both of you for the league, the show, everything. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So, I want to thank you two for coming on again, and for everyone that's getting a little sad that, the season's over, you're not going to see us anymore. Be sure to stay tuned to the channel. We got some exciting stuff lined up that I don't want to give too much away until it gets confirmed. But we're not exactly done with Night Fight yet, so stick around. There's going to be a lot of exciting stuff, especially this weekend. We're going to be live streaming a Night Fight night up at the Knights Hall, hosted by that tireless worker we just talked about, Jay Brooks. He's putting it on at the Knights Hall. Ringo, I know you're going to be fighting in one of the fights. You want to run down some of the card that, at least some of the main card that we can get excited about?
Yeah, the card got changed a little bit around. Should be announcement up soon. But the highlight fights right now probably going to be Cat Brooks versus Derek Flitcroft. Cat Brooks, unfortunately, could not be on the show because his dad was one of the producers, Jay Brooks, and therefore there was worry about nepotism. So he was not allowed to compete. Otherwise, he probably would have been one of the top competitors. So if you don't know him, he's a legit fighter. Derek, obviously, we just watched him on the fucking show. Another goddamn legit fighter. So that's my pick now for Fight of the Night. What was my pick for Fight of the Night dropped off, sadly. So we won't talk about that. Another big one that we're looking forward to is Greg Fisher. No, that's the wrong fight. Is Peter Day versus Chase. Chase James. They're lightweight fighters, but they're hungry, they're fast, they're dynamic. They're both coming with long swords, and these are both dudes who punch way above their weight. So this is and they like to mix it up. They are not scared of getting the fuck in there with each other. So this should be a great fucking energetic fight.
And I think Peter probably has probably one of the best tanks I've ever seen. Like Peter never fucking gets tired. It's insane.
Yeah, Pete is right up there with Brian with that not tiring out. That's that Marine life. He kept up the Marine training, and it's crazy. Anyway, and then the next standout fight I think would be me and Michael Johnson.
Yes.
Michael Johnson, semifinalist from his episode, lost to Cumbie. And no shame in that. Cumbie's a fucking legit fucking fighter. Yeah. And then so he's gonna be fighting me, and so I think that'll be another standout fight. We both have very different styles. Mikey's a counter puncher. I love to fucking get in there and mix it up. So it's gonna be interesting to see whose style fucking plays out. So yeah, and then there's a bunch of other really good fights on the card. Tune in, check it out. I really think it's gonna be a great card tonight on Saturday.
Awesome.
It's definitely going to be some real work. I can't wait for the next couple weeks for fighting and everything else, because we've got some serious fighting going on in the next couple of weeks. We're getting ready for Salt Lake City.
Mm-hmm.
I know Philly's doing something.
Yep, March 30th. We're gonna be. Unfortunately, I got some family shit I gotta do, so I won't be able to live stream. I might try and pawn it off to a wild JoJo running around to see if she can get it going. But there's if you're in the South Jersey, Philadelphia area, highly recommend coming out to see that fight. It's gonna be fucking nuts.
It's gonna be the Philly Rhinos versus the New Haven Highlanders. Both up and coming teams that looking like they could be two of the top next season. They both put on some strong performances this year. Really are starting to get their teamwork down. And so we'll see what comes together, and I don't have a pick for that fight.
Yeah, I like to call them they're like top merc teams. They're like the teams themselves aren't really there yet, but whenever someone needs mercs, they usually end up with a Rhino or a Highlander. It seems like every time. But Other than that, stay tuned to the channel. Paul, you've got your own channel in the works. You just released a video last week, and you got some stuff coming.
Yeah, I'm going to put out some stuff for younger fighters, newer fighters getting into this sport. I put up a thing about soft kit and gambesons to give you a better idea of where to start. Everybody keeps looking at armor and helmets first thing. I'm like, you got to look at gambesons first, guys. Soft kit's the first part of your armor. That's the first part you buy. I'm going to be doing other episodes about armor, different types, how to document your kit. We're going to do workout regimens. I'm going to be doing this newbie series and bringing different people that I know onto the series to give a little bit more than just me rambling on about it. It's going to be some good stuff. Check it out. It's on Paul the Barbarian on the YouTubes. I'll give these guys a link so they can put it on the nightlife stuff or whatever. Yep. And we're going to keep it running.
Yeah, so gave you a lot of stuff to do to keep your appetite sated while, we get season 2, fingers crossed, in the works. But I want to thank you two for joining me today, and I want to thank everyone at home for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. So I guess I would say until next week, but I guess until next fight, we'll catch y'all later.
Well, y'all have a good one.
Peace.